Welcome, everyone, to DEI After 5, the show that focuses on topics across diversity, equity, and inclusion with some of the brightest minds in the industry. Here's your hostess, inclusive culture curator and coach, Sacha Thompson.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of DEI After 5. So for the last few months or so, we've started seeing more and more pushback on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And if you have followed me for any time, you know that I started my career in higher education on the administrative side. And so I've been very keenly aware and focused on what is happening on our colleges and university campuses when it comes to diversity, equity, inclusion, and the anti-DEI legislation that is impacting them. And so today we are going to break that down just a little bit so that we have some insights, because those are the students that are our future, right? With very high expectations around diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so my guest today is Briaunna Embrey-Banks, who is a consultant in this space, but I actually met when she was an undergraduate doing some of this work. So Briaunna, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you for having me.
So I'm so excited for us to have this conversation. So for people who may not know who you are, can you tell us a little bit about what you do and who you are?
Yeah, so my name, of course, as mentioned, is Briaunna Embrey-Banks. I'm the CEO and founder of Owning My Blackness and Owning My Blackness Consulting, where I work to educate and elevate for Black and Brown students, as well as work with on the back end to reduce systemic racism, particularly in education, but I also touch on the workforce, criminal justice system, healthcare, and all that fun jazz.
So Owning My Blackness is something you started as an undergraduate. So talk to us a little bit about, how that came about, the why, and then how you've transitioned that since you've graduated.
Yeah, so funny enough, Owning My Blackness originally started as my RA event on campus. So for those who aren't familiar, there's a student worker position on college campuses called a resident assistant, where essentially you work to keep the dormitory safe, all the residents safe and sound, but and also a central function is to plan fun events on campus for any students, especially students in the dorms, to attend. So I had decided at that point in time, because it was our first semester back on campus since the COVID lockdown, so the other huge thing going on besides COVID is Black Lives Matter, that I wanted to address it. I was like, hey, let's talk about what's going on in the world right now with the Black Lives Matter movement. The campus that I had gone to, like many others in the world at this point in time, were trying to battle both of these huge events in the world. So we were seeing policy changes left and right affecting both COVID and Black Lives Matter. So our huge one was about signs and posters you could put outside of your dormitories, like in the windows and such. So before, you could hang any type of flag or picture that you wanted, as long as it was appropriate, like an LGBTQ flag, Black Lives Matter, they didn't really care. But now with everything going on, they said no more of that. So before students had even come back to campus, there was like an uproar in a sense about this. And I had noticed there was a lot of ignorance in the conversation, like not a lot of people knew what they were talking about when they had gone at it. So I was like, let's kind of come together. Let's all get on an equal playing field. Let's talk about Black Lives Matter, Blue Lives Matter, All Lives Matter, the history behind them. Let's get on the same page, and then let's discuss what's going on right now. So that was the idea of this event. Usually to do an event like this on campus is a pretty simple process. You write down your idea, you get the approvals, get your budget, you're good to go. But when I had done mine, they had sat all of us down and said, hey, because of COVID, because remember that was the other big thing, no in-person events this year. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I hear you, but hear me. So I sat my supervisor down and I pitched the idea for my event, Blackout for Black Lives. And she basically told me, she was like, hey, Briaunna, I love your idea. COVID is above my head and I don't have the authority to clear you to do this. So guys, don't be like me. I was a bit hard-headed. I was like, so let me find somebody who will. So again, because it's COVID, you can't go in any offices or anything like that at this point in time. It's a very interesting space in higher ed. So everything is via email, via Zoom at this point in time. So I emailed the ladies who controlled the soccer field because that was the biggest field outside at the time. Again, with COVID policies, I could host an in-person event according to school rules as long as we were 6 feet apart and all that jazz. But when I emailed the people who normally control the soccer fields, at first I got a response of, hey, I don't do that anymore, go to person B. Person B said, hey, I don't control the soccer fields anymore, go to person C. Person C is an automatic email saying they no longer work at the institution at all because of COVID.
Of course. Right.
Go back to person A. So I just kept kind of getting put through the loop. And this is why I say if you guys like your jobs, don't do what I do. I had thrown them all in a singular email chain and I was like, listen, at this point, I'm going to do it with or without you guys because I wouldn't be breaking school rules if someone doesn't guide me in the right direction of who I need to speak to. I don't know about you guys, but something that's even worse than hearing like bad news or a no is complete silence. So I had heard absolutely nothing for about 48 to 72 hours when I eventually got an email from our school's DEI office. So they said, Briaunna, I want you to come in for an in-person meeting. So I was like, I really messed up around here. They actually want to see my face.
Right.
So when I got to her office, she sat me down and she said, so Briaunna, tell me why you want to do a protest. And I'd asked her, I said, well, what protest? I'm trying to do my RA event, but I can't seem to get the necessary approvals. I've never said anything about a protest. And she essentially told me the reason you can't get your event off its feet is because there's a rumor between the staff that you want to do a protest. And they had sent me here to essentially shut you down. So after I stomached all that and I looked through all the emails and everything that she was talking about to kind of like prove to me that, yes, this is what is going on. She, luckily for me, didn't shut me down, whatever that was supposed to look like. She had guided me in the correct spaces I needed to get in to get those approvals. And I hosted the only in-person event and the largest in-person event on campus that school year, which ended up being Blackout for Black Lives. From there, once I got that event rolling, of course, you can only be a groundbreaker so many times.
Right.
Causing a fuss. So I did a bunch of smaller events. Zoom ones, goodie bags, like how they wanted. But I started to get this feeling, once I had opened that conversation on campus, that the school was kind of just pushing me along, like waiting for me to graduate so they wouldn't have to deal with the issues we had started talking about. For example, like differences in grading, differences in discipline, and students of color, all of that fun jazz we all know exists in this space. So I eventually got to the point where I again sat down with my new mentor, the lady supposed to shut me down. And she had pitched me, she said, Briaunna, why don't you start a club? So by the end of that semester, so that was fall semester, we did the event. By the end of spring semester, I had all the approvals of what started Owning My Blackness as a school club. Over the next few years, we branched off to a multi-institutional organization at both the college and multiple high schools in the area. And now I have turned it into a business. So
I love it. I love it. And it's funny because, you're like, don't do what I do. I was doing that kind of stuff too. So I'm like a founder of the Burn It Down Club. You got to push authority. But I think what's so important about, you telling that story is it speaks volumes to your generation, right? Of, okay, you can't just tell us no, and we're just going to go off and do nothing because you said no. It's we're going to continue to push. We're going to continue to see how we can look at these rules in a different way and still be within them, right? And still get what we want to get out of that, which, I'm always like, yes, do that, do that. Any of my students would have told you, I'd have been like, so you're going to let this happen? What else can you do? Right? I was such an instigator, but I appreciate that. And I think that, again, that understanding of this isn't just about DEI offices being shut down on campus. This is also about and again, from your story, some silencing, right? Some violation of some First Amendment rights. You have a voice. And so to have it tweaked in such a way where it comes out to be a protest, right? If you just want to have a conversation, there's nothing about that that's a protest. But again, it's ignorance, it's fear of what you don't know, it's only hearing one side of a story. And so creating this monster that is not there. Um, and also not thinking that students are smart enough to figure this out.
100%. I loved how you talked about like the impact of DEI, especially the DEI offices in higher education. For me, like I said, that lady, she doesn't matter if her name is Phillips Thomas. She has become a lifelong mentor to me off of that one event. And I can promise you now, I don't know where I would have been when it comes to the space of DEI and creating my own business if it wasn't for her. Because not only was she guiding me in the right direction of people to talk to, but that was my emotional support at this point in time.
Yeah.
Because in a split second, all of these adults that I thought were here to guide me and help me succeed, I had seen them all talking about me and no one talking to me.
Yeah.
And even afterwards, in the fight to get the organization up and running the first few years, I'd gone through things like changing of the budget, trying to remove funding off and on the club. They were changing my grades because of comments I was making inside and outside of the classroom when building this organization. They were removing opportunities from me. Like I was promised to be able to go speak at some big conference and they were going to fund it. Then the funding from that was magically pulled. So trying to go through all of this and eventually leading up to even questioning my safety in the classroom with just wanting to start a safe space for Black and brown students, I needed someone to protect me as much as I was fighting for everyone else. And that office was that safe space for me.
Yeah.
That was my support. That was my guidance. That was my backbone to continue to have that fight to keep going. And like I said before, the idea that these spaces are disappearing on campuses right now is really petrifying, because even if a student isn't as big, bold, and crazy as me of wanting to start up a whole new institution or organization, it is very much still that safe space for many students. Especially, I know from working with many students of color within the organization, we'd gone to PWI, predominantly white institution. So it's almost like a culture shock to a lot of us when we get there, and there's not a lot of people who look like us, sound like us, share the same cultures. So being able to have that space to talk to someone who understands, be able to find like-minded people, find your community, is really important. So to not have that is petrifying.
Yeah. It touches my heart. And I say it that way because it reflects, it is a mirror image of my experience as well, right? Went to a PWI, and of all places, Colonial Williamsburg, that was still doing slave reenactments when I was there. And it was that Office of Multicultural Affairs that was my safe space. That is where I would go. If I wasn't in class or in my room, I was in that office. And it was interesting because I got the nickname Free Help, because I was just like, what y'all need? Because I was learning so much about other cultures, about other students, having those interactions in a very authentic and safe way. And I think that that is so important that you spoke about, like that was your safe space, because I think so many institutions feel, oh, this is just a place that's, trying to make white people feel bad. Far from it. Like, number one, let's decenter whiteness for a second. Number two, right? Is it okay then for Black and brown students to feel bad? Because that's often what is happening if they are placed into situations that they're not accustomed to. And so it is that safe space that helps them cope and helps them figure out some of those resources. It was through that organization that I got really involved with the Black Student Organization, which ultimately I became president of at one point. I think like my sophomore year, I was vice president, which I might have been tricked into. But, by, my junior year, I was president. And to your point, when you have someone like you that has this voice, you also need someone that has your back. And to have administrators, to have folks on campus that you can trust, that will not steer you in the wrong direction, that won't talk about you behind your back. Um, those are the things that kind of help motivate you. But then what I see in you is once you had that support, that drive, you then did that for other students, right? Like that was kind of your motivation to help other students and continue this work. And so talk to me a little bit about, you're doing this on campus, but you all have now kind of launched into these high school chapters, right? So why branch back to high school? Like what was the thought process with that?
Yes. So when I was first designing the club of Owning My Blackness, before it was even a business, we had the home location at the college, is what I called it. And before we had even, I'll say officially launched, as in we had students signed up, but before we even had our first meeting on it. So timeline wise, not to confuse anybody, that fall semester was the event, Black Out for Black Lives. Spring, I'd gotten all the approvals for Owning My Blackness and students signed up, which means the next fall, we'd be a full-fledged running club. That summer in between, however, I had essentially gone back to my roots in a sense. I've already been interested in doing a lot of youth work. And the more and more students that started reaching out to me from high school saying, like, I'm going through this as well. Like, I'm really struggling. Like, I really need help. And I remembered in my experiences, I continued to do more research and almost unpack things that I've gone through that I didn't realize were maybe like racist undertones or systemic racism in a sense. So like when I was in high school, lunch attentions almost every day was full of Black and brown students, despite it being a predominantly white high school. Now I wasn't in lunch attention, but we had music independence in there. So I took an independent music. So we'd practice in the same room as the lunch attention. So I'd see it day after day, like the same students in there, and it would never really click. And I was usually like an honor student or a college prep student. Most of my classes are probably white. I remember I slipped up one time and like totally bombed biology. So I had to take like a lower level of science. And that was the only class I had in high school where most of the students looked like me. At the time, that didn't click. But now as I'm starting to do this research and I'm starting to build up what I want Owning My Blackness to look like when it comes in the fall, I realize that this problem goes way beyond higher education, that this is something instilled all the way back from elementary school and daycare that works its way up to higher ed, which is why we experience the things we do by the time we're here. So I was like, which ways can I do right now to support? And I was like, my old high school is down the street from my college. So I essentially, again, just took that wild ride and just shot my shot, shot an email to my old principal. I was like, hey, I have this great organization coming to the college down the street from you. I would love for us to branch out and put a baby branch at the high school as well. Luckily from there, they were pretty accepting of everything and gave us a shot. And then from there, I had gotten reached out from actually parents of other students in a local high school. It was like, my kids are struggling. They're trying to fight for differences and they need like guidance. They need a mentor. Please reach out. And we ended up being launched at 3 institutions at one time by that fall.
Wow.
So it started to just organically grow that fast for the demand of it, in a sense, which had developed Owning My Blackness into a mentorship program as a club, which is why I started calling it more of an organization than a club, because it started to become so much more.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. This is the stuff that brings me joy and excites me, because DEI is so much more than the conversations that happen in corporate spaces. It is so much more. And and of late, I've been saying, DEI after 5 is what we're doing after 5 o'clock. It is what we do at home. It's in our communities, in our schools. And so this speaks volumes to just that, right? Students are having issues regarding race, gender, sexual orientation, what have you, at school, in their communities, in their, softball leagues, whatever it is, they're having those impacts. And part of that is, how do you have the conversations but then also how do you create those support systems? And so I love that you are thinking back to, okay, what's kind of that low-hanging fruit that we can easily get to, that we can create impact. So what is the future for your organization? Like, where do you see it in the next 5 years?
I love that question. So, since we've taken it from the college, I currently no longer have those branches at the individual schools.
Mm.
Just to give people a heads up so they know where we are, for where we're going. I have since taken the organization, split it into two parts for people when you look it up. Owning My Blackness is the mentorship program that we had started at the college, where I currently still mentor college students, high school students, and newly have taken on my youngest mentee, who is 7 years old. Her name
Aw.
is Jilly. She goes to a local elementary school here because she has been bullied to the point where she didn't like anything about her blackness, her hair, or whatnot. And that really tugged at my heart. Like I said, organic growing based off of the demand. So that's the youngest I've worked with. So, and then I've also taken that other piece that I was doing. So that fight action behind closed doors, like when I was working on policy changes, doing trainings with staff. I actually went to schools and helped them rewrite their policies and doing research. I've now developed that into Owning My Blackness Consulting, where I'm essentially like that more of a business mindset, like the adults, y'all got to pay me for this. I continue to do my work for the mentees, but we need to make change on the back end, or all the support I'm giving the kids will be for no reason because they're going to keep experiencing. They're not seeing change. So my end goal within the next 5-10 years is to be able to really expand the consulting end of it and really help make policy changes, get training done, really reinforce the importance of DEI back into education. Personally, what I think we have seen, just like inflation and deflation with money, so like right after George Floyd, we had saw a real popularization of DEI, but it was done incorrectly. As in, anybody who had a slight bit of diversity, like, oh, you're a woman, now you're the head of DEI. That does not mean I know how to solve all the women issues in your organization.
Yeah.
So we had people with no professional background in how to deal with these issues, taking on leadership roles, trying to make change, or even if they did have the qualifications for it, they were given a title with no power to make no real change. So now we're seeing the deflux of it. DEI has no real power, doesn't make a difference, it doesn't work. So I would just like to show people, like, when it's done correctly, it 100% can work on that end. And I would love to continue expanding the mentorship program. My end goal would be to somehow expand it the whole way down. Like I said before, higher ed, high school, middle school, elementary.
Yeah.
So those are my goals within the next few years.
Okay. So yeah, we could do it. We can make it happen. So, because I'm thinking through, like, my audience, the folks listening to this are mostly folks in corporate, but again, our lives are 360. They're parents, they are coaches, they are, all these other things within their lives. And so, what would you say to them about how they can help students that may not necessarily see, their blackness, or I'm going to take a step back, understand that their blackness may look different than somebody else?
100%. Something I have been continuing to say as I grow as a professional, I feel like a lot of people don't know this because they hear me talk. I'm only 24 years old. So as much as I have continued to broaden and expand in awards and stuff, I've only been in this space for like 4 years now. But I always say, listen. I think we do a lot of talking for and advocating for, which is great, but we need to really listen to the stories of the people we are trying to represent. What I mean by that is, like when I said before, like parents are reaching out to me about the kids. All the children I mentor right now, I have very little discussions with the parents. I contact the kids directly. Like, you tell me how you're feeling. And when I talked to those kids, they were telling me things like, we had rocks thrown at us. We were called monkeys. And I'm talking about, like, this was like 2 years ago, 2-3 years ago. They were thrown in group chats where they were sent KKK memes talking about they're going to come to school and lynch them. Right now. Like within the last 3 to 5 years. And like I said before, I just picked up this year a 7-year-old who's in elementary school. I think she was 6 at the time. who's bullied so much just about her hair, about her skin color. And I feel like so much if I would have just overpowered them and told them what I think should be done and not have listened to their stories and kind of gave them a one shoe fits all to address their problems, they wouldn't be where they're at today. 100%. So I'd say listen more and adapt to their needs. So for my 7-year-old, most of the time, I allow her the space to vent. I allow her the space to show me her little LOL dolls or whatnot, because that's what she needs right now. And I make her every single day go through this whole line where she says out loud her name and that she's important, that she is beautiful, that she is strong, that she is kind. I don't make my high schoolers do that. That's not what they need from me.
Yeah.
My high schoolers, we do Black history lessons raw. Like if someone unfortunately had died in an inappropriate way, we say it just as it is. And then we unpack our feelings about that. And how does that play out for our life? That template is not going to work for my 7-year-old. What I do with my 7-year-old is not going to work for my high schoolers. So I say really listening to your youth or your young adults and shaping their needs based off of their own experiences and their own stories.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
I am. And, and I shared with everyone, I met Briaunna when she was an undergraduate, but y'all have to understand, she reached out. Like that boldness was something that I was just like, oh, okay, come on. What do you need? I can help you. And so I appreciate all you do because, this is the future. This is the work. This is the expectation of the workplace, right? So when we hear, oh, these young folks come in and listen, they about business and they're about getting it done. And so this is just one example of the future of this work. And I think it's so important that we see and honor and support this type of work. So I'm going to do a little bit of a pivot.
Of course.
What are the things that you do to take care of you? Like you're taking care of 7-year-olds and, high schoolers and.
No, I love that. Going back to Miss Phillips Thomas, I told you my new lifelong mentor from that one day in the office about the protest. She has really kicked in my butt since the day she met me about self-care. Do you get enough sleep? Did you get enough to eat? And every time I talk to her, she's, like I said, she is that one person who advocates for me, like, girl, take care of yourself. So since then, I've tried my absolute best that Fridays and Saturdays are days for me. Like I may have like a work shift from like my normal day job or something in the day, but that evening when I get off, try my best not to take any kids, not to take any meetings. Those days are solely for me to hang out with my friends, with my family, to do anything that I need to do for myself. Whether that would be going on a date, going to an amusement park, going bowling, going on a walk, going on a hike. Those are my 2 days for me. And I also have really started to drill in when it comes around like 10, 10:30, 11 some days, laptop closed. Like, I don't care if it's homework, I don't care if it's business, whatever deadline, it can wait. There's another time within the 24-hour day that it can be done. Close it. That's my time for prepping for bed.
I love it.
So that's what I've been trying to do. I would say it's not my greatest strength at the moment. Like I said, I do have amazing mentors in my ear. I have multiple mentors who are amazing who are like, girl, what you doing for yourself?
Right. Go sit down somewhere.
Right.
Love it. So if folks wanted to contact you, learn more about how they can support the work that you're doing, how can they do that?
Well, I think the easiest way you can do is to literally just Google either my name, Briaunna Embrey-Banks, Owning My Blackness, or Owning My Blackness Consulting. When you look up any of those three, our websites pop up, our social medias. You can find me at www.ombconsulting.org. That is my main one for the work I do with adults, keeping in mind your audience. But you can also find us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all just Owning My Blackness or Owning My Blackness Consulting.
Love it. Briaunna, thank you. Thank you for
so
being
much.
you and the work that you do. And, these are the things that fill my cup in having these conversations, especially with folks like you. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. And it's been so nice to be able to catch up and talk to you more because it's been a minute.
It's been a minute. We'll stay connected for sure. So Thank you again. And thank you all for tuning into this episode. I hope that you were able to understand a bit more about the future of this work because it is not going anywhere. So, again, thank you for being with us. Feel free to like, share, subscribe. We are here every Tuesday at 5:15 Eastern. And until next time, have a good one.